What up, guys? It's Dragon Ball for Life here. Today, I want to talk about Goku and Vegeta's gravity training and why it's far more intense and complex than a lot of people think. I want to go first talking about how I've seen quite a bit of videos about this topic, but I feel like a lot of people that do talk about it kind of, the problem for me is I feel like they don't really go in too much in depth on the training itself and what they had to go through to be able to handle that condition. They usually talk about, could it be possible to make a gravity chamber or somebody putting on some extra weight and training to show how much it will increase your speed or physical endurance or whatever. And there are some videos where people talk about higher gravity, it multiplies your like weight. Like for example, Goku training under 100 times Earth's gravity would multiply his body weight times 100. And that is the case, but I feel like it's far too simplistic. There's far more into it. And when you actually look more in depth into how gravity works and the effects it has on people's bodies as they, experience it, you will understand more how crazy these guys are for being able to handle this condition and how more crazier and intense it will make it. Now, like I said, a lot of people focus on the body weight ratio aspect of you're on a planet, let's say like with 2 times Earth's gravity, you will weigh 2 times more. But people fail to understand that not only will your entire body weigh 2 times more, but even individual parts of your body will weigh 2 times more, and that's where it becomes far more, complex and where it becomes more intense. And that's why I feel like Goku and Vegeta's training, them in training it under gravity, these gravity conditions are far more crazier than people are led to believe. Because people, when they see, they're talking about how Goku trained he was basically trained with 100 times his own body weight, which is the case. But that wouldn't just mean just in general his entire body would weigh 100 times. It would mean every individual part of his body would weigh 100 times. And when you think about that, you can see why it's super intense, because that would mean that his hair, his eyes, his nail, his blood, his skin, every part of his body would weigh 100 times more than what it actually is. And that is far more intense, because when you look at it more in depth, of your nails weighed 100 times more, it would fall literally right out of your fingers. Of your skin weighed 100 times more, it would literally start sagging and tearing apart. Of your blood weighed that much, it would start to slow down and clot, and it would be having troubles going through your arteries to your heart, and it would even probably come out of your blood pores of the gravity is high enough. And as 100 times Earth's gravity, definitely it will be leaking from your body. Your organs, your stomach, your lungs, your heart will be compressed and crushing in and on itself, and there'll be a lot of internal bleeding, especially the brain. The brain is very soft and smushy, and the more amount of weight and pressure put on it will start to crush it and make you bleed out of the ears, out of the nose, out of the mouth, out of the eyes. Your eyeballs will drop out. Your hair will be pressing onto your head. Your hair would probably, if you go down, would probably fall out of your scalp. So there's a lot of intense stuff. And when you look at more depth, such as the organs, the blood, the meat, different cells, and when you look at your bones, you would see the severity of these increased gravity. Because first, let's talk about bones. Bones can take a lot of pressure down on it, but to 100 times Earth's gravity, that's intense. Your bones would be getting compressed and start to crush and deform and start to crack under the pressure. Luckily for us, our bodies are far stronger with downward pressure than usually sideward or like a twisting form. It's easier to break bones if it's in a twisting motion or a sideward compression, even through gravitational increase. If it's a downward gravitational increase, it'll be less, effective. But that's more of through acceleration, like flying in, a fighter jet and then go 6 Gs. That's where they be. But if you're standing on a surface or on a planet or trying to train and move around, throw punches, run, with that increased gravitational weight, it is far more detrimental to you and it will be killing you easier. So when you talk about bones, it will be crushing it. It will be, your smaller bones such as your fingers or your joints would have far more problems. Your elbows, your shoulders, your knees, your fingers, they will be getting crushed because of the high intense gravity. And then when we go into the organs, like I said, it'll be crushed and compressed, and you'll have a lot of internal bleeding, and the blood itself and the other cells would be so heavy that they could barely move, so they'll get stuck and clot the arteries and the heart. And then there will be, you might go into cardiac arrest. Your blood might even come through the pores of your skin because it's so heavy and dense that it can't handle it, and your skin will be loose, tearing off. So it'll be very, very violent and gruesome to go through that. Obviously, Goku and Vegeta, they are Saiyans, so technically that wouldn't be as big of a problem, but it just makes their training more crazy, because a lot of people think of it as, oh, they just got 100 times heavier or 350 times heavier for Vegeta. But no, they didn't just get heavier. Every individual part of their body got heavier. So while they were, training or just even standing, they had to be able to not only handle having more body weight on them, having their body crushed, but also having their bones be able to resist the pressure, being crushed, the joints, small bones. They had to have their organs be able to withstand, pressure trying to compress it. So like the pressure would come like this trying to compress it, but their organs would have to stay and push back onto that gravity. So there's a lot of intense stuff in it for them to be able to handle that type of gravity. And obviously you can, the reason that they can do that is because they have ki. So they use that ki to amplify their body and strengthen it up. And that is where it becomes more intense, because they would have to use more energy and ki to maintain their body to a standard where it won't just fall apart on them and kill them. So that would mean that they would need this ki to protect their bones from being crushed into dust, and their joints from being, damaged. They would have to use the ki to keep their organs from being compressed and crushed. They'd have to use a ki to pump their blood faster. Even though it's a lot heavier, they would have to move their blood fast enough, faster, so it could be more on an average level of a regular human's heartbeat. So they would have to pump it a lot faster, because there's more resistance and there's more weight onto it. They would have to maintain the formation of their skin to keep it from falling apart, their nails, their hair. So their entire body, they would have to basically push their ki limits or their energy limits throughout their entire body to keep it maintained from falling apart or being just crushed and destroyed. So it's more than just body weight, it's your skin. So they have to keep their skin from sagging and tearing. They have to keep their bones from being crushed. They have to keep their organs from being compressed. They have to keep their blood from clotting, so they have to move it to their arteries. So the amount of pressure that it would take is far more intense when you look at it in depth than just they weigh this much, because that way it's just, oh, they got to be physically strong and handle it. But this way, they have to use their ki in intricate ways to, handle all the individual parts of their bodies so they can maintain it to survive. And not only just to survive, but also train. Because Goku's like lifting weights, he was throwing punches, he was doing, he was doing like leg raised sit-ups and stuff. He was doing intense things. So you can see why he was heavily damaged. You can see why Vegeta was severely damaged. And when I see people saying, well, they went this many times Earth's gravity, so that's how many times that they would, their power would multiply, that isn't true. Their power would multiply even more than that. So if Goku's training 100 times Earth's gravity, the pressure that he would be feeling and the pressure that he would have to push against to be equivalent to that, to handle it, would have to be more than 100 times. So if he's training under 100 times Earth's gravity, he would not be working 100 times harder. It wouldn't be 100 times harder on his body. It would be more than 100 times harder. So technically, for them to get that power to handle it, especially through training, they would have to go beyond the amount of multiplication they have for the gravity training. So Goku would be training harder than 100 times. He would be training like maybe 200 times, 300 times, Earth's gravity, due to the fact that when you put in all those other things. So yeah, I don't feel like not only did the people who, the Dragon Ball fans or the people who made videos about this completely misinterpret how it works, but I also think that Toriyama himself, because he himself, when he talked about this in like the manga, how the characters explaining like Dr. Briefs, he just mainly focused on the body weight aspect and not really about the individual parts and the damage it would do. And when Goku trained under King Kai's planet, which had 10 times Earth's gravity, his power multiplied by 10 times. But if we're being scientifically accurate, technically Goku and Vegeta's body would have to multiply even more. Their power multiply even more than what type of gravity they were under, because technically their bodies would be working even harder and more over time than what the amount of gravity that they're handling. So gravity training is far more intense, and it would give you far more gains and power boost for the Dragon Ball characters than what they should have gotten or what people think that they should have gotten. So I hope that video explained quite a bit about gravity and gravity training, and I hope I taught you some new stuff.